Have you ever scrolled through like an article or a post online and felt, huh, I don't know, are they speaking a different language? What's going on here?
Yeah, trying to read between the lines
Yeah,
and
yeah.
unpack all the
And
layers.
figure out the real story.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what we're doing today with this deep dive. And it's something that really resonated with both of us. It's a response to an online article by Shireishi Yoshiko.
Yeah, this one was interesting, right? Because it kind of bubbled up organically, I guess you could say. It wasn't like a major headline or anything. But a tweet from Psycho kind of caught the eye of Yukio Hashiguchi.
Oh, yeah, I remember seeing that.
Yeah. And he was really effusive, called it amazing and powerful and told everyone they had to read it.
Yeah, he doesn't really mince words, when he feels strongly about something.
Nope, and that really piqued our interest, right? Like when something gets that kind of passionate recommendation, you got to see what it's all about.
Absolutely. And what really stood out to Yukio and to us, I think, was this really powerful message at the heart of Shiroshi's writing about her relationship with her son, Jiro. It's about their experiences as a family, navigating a world that is so quick to label him as, different or maybe even a misfit or delayed.
Right. There's this sense that he doesn't quite fit the mold the world has created, and they're grappling with those external judgments together. It's really quite poignant.
Yeah, and it's interesting because one of the things that really jumped out at us was the reaction from someone online using the handle T9MeOD who really pushed back against this idea that this is just a simple case of bullying.
Yeah, they saw something much deeper going on, right? It wasn't just about individual acts of cruelty or insensitivity, but something more systemic, a real confrontation with how our whole society functions.
Right, and I think it's important to acknowledge that there were some initial discussions online that touched on the Keigo Oyamada controversy.
Sure, that was part of the context.
Yeah, but we really want to be clear here that our focus in this deep dive is squarely on Shiraishi's personal account and the universal themes that T9 Melody identified. So what was it about Shiraishi's writing that really resonated with T9 Melody? They used these really powerful words to describe it, talking about its strength and its ethical nature.
Because the language she uses, it's so deliberate. Tina Milady pointed out how she avoids all those tired cliches and moral platitudes. It's like she's going out of her way to make sure her words are genuinely her own and rooted in her love for Jiro.
Yeah, it's like she's creating a new vocabulary to express her experience almost.
Exactly. And it's powerful because it's coming from such a place of honesty. It's raw, it's unfiltered, it's not trying to sugarcoat anything.
Right, and Tina Melody really captured this idea of her creating her own language with this amazing phrase, rewriting words. They called it a wild and strong action. It's like she's not just describing her reality, but actually trying to change the very terms that are being used to judge Jiro.
It's an act of defiance in a way, right? She's refusing to accept the definitions that society is trying to impose. Instead, she's crafting her own framework for understanding.
And then T9 Melody hits us with this really evocative phrase that I think sums it all up. Jiro and Mother against the world. This image of them standing together, united against a system that just doesn't seem to get peed. Jiro really speaks to their strength and their resilience.
Absolutely. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes you have to stand firm in your own convictions, even when the world is pushing back.
Yeah, and I think this idea of Jiro and Mother against the world really makes you question how we as a society determine what's normal. It reminds me of something Andrew Yang said. Atypical is the new normal. How do you see that idea connecting to Shiraishi's experience?
Well, I think it's a brilliant parallel. Yang is basically challenging this whole notion of a rigid normal, right? He's saying that human variation is inherent to who we are. It's not some deviation from an ideal.
Right, and he's speaking from his own experience as a parent, too.
Yeah, exactly. And in the context of Shirishi's story, it makes us ask, why are certain differences seen as problems to be fixed? Why can't we just embrace the beautiful diversity of human experience?
And T9 Melody D really zeroed in on another one of Yang's key points, the difference between economic value and human worth.
Yeah.
Why is that distinction so crucial when we're talking about how society views someone like Jiro?
I think it gets at this unspoken assumption in our culture that a person's worth is directly tied to their economic productivity, like how much they contribute to the system, how well they fit into these predefined roles.
Right, and it can be really insidious because it's often not explicitly stated, but it shapes so much of how we interact with each other.
Absolutely. And T9 Melody uses these really stark words to describe it, calling our current societal stage crude and ignorant. It's like we're so focused on this narrow definition of success that we're missing out on the richness and complexity of what it means to be human.
And if someone doesn't fit into that narrow definition of success, if their abilities or their way of being doesn't align with those economic metrics,
Yeah.
then they risk being marginalized or devalued.
Exactly. And that's why I think Shureishi's use of language is so powerful because it's a direct act of resistance against that limited definition of worth. She's saying through her words and her actions that Jiro's value goes far beyond any economic measure.
Right, she's not letting society dictate her son's worth.
Exactly, and Tina Military recognizes this, calling Shureishi an independent thinker. She's not afraid to question these deeply ingrained societal norms and try to forge new paths towards a more inclusive and humane understanding of value.
Yeah, and I think there's a real longing in T9 Ability's response for a society that moves beyond this harsh, economically driven way of judging individuals.
Absolutely. It's a call for greater compassion and understanding, a recognition that human worth cannot be reduced to a single metric.
It really makes you think about how much of what we consider normal is based on these underlying economic assumptions. And it makes you wonder how much richer our interactions would be if we could truly separate those two concepts, economic value and intrinsic human worth.
I think that's a really profound question and one that we all need to grapple with.
Absolutely. Now, Tina Midion also shared a really personal connection to Shiraishi's story, talking about how they see parallels with their own relationship with their son. How did that personal resonance shape their reaction?
Well, I think it really amplifies the impact of Shureishi's words, right? Because it's no longer just an abstract concept for Tianominia. It's something they're living every day. They talk about feeling like they're also a pair against the world with their son.
So it becomes a shared experience of navigating a world that doesn't always understand or accept difference.
Exactly. And it creates this powerful emotional connection that makes Shureishi's words even more resonant and meaningful.
So from T9 Millie's perspective, Shiraishi's note isn't just a commentary on a specific news event or some abstract sociological observation. It's a deeply personal and relatable account of a mother fighting for her child in a world that can be really challenging.
Yeah, and the strength that T9 Millie sees in Shureishi's writing comes from this place of deep love and fierce determination to define her own reality through her own words. She's not looking for external validation. She's creating her own footing, her own way of understanding their place in the world.
It's really inspiring.
It is. And it reminds us that we all have the power to do the same, to challenge the narratives that are imposed on us and create our own.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the key takeaway that emerges from Shiraishi's experience and T9 Mility's powerful response?
I think it's the transformative power, individual experience, and the courage to challenge societal norms. Shureishi's story shows us that we don't have to accept limiting definitions. We can use language to redefine value and understanding even in the face of immense pressure.
And it all comes back to that fundamental distinction between economic value in Shiraishi's story and T9 Mility's engagement with it highlight the need for a more compassionate and inclusive view of humanity, one that recognizes and values diversity in all its forms.
It leaves us with a really important question to ponder. What are the unspoken rules and value systems that shape our own perceptions of the world? Are they truly serving us and helping us to understand the richness of human experience?
It's a question worth asking.
Yeah.
And just to make sure we've covered everything, T9 Mility did end their response with a direct call for financial support.
Oh, yeah, that's right, they did.
All right, well, that concludes our deep dive for today. We hope this exploration of Shiraishi Yoshiko's writing and the incredibly thoughtful reaction it sparked has given you some new perspectives to consider. Until next time.
See you then.
Take care.